Hello again. So this time I'm going to talk about the history of slavery, past lives and times. Okay, so in order to talk about this, I need you to, one, listen to what I'm about to talk about with divine masculine, divine feminine. And I know that some of you in your mind, it won't seem very relevant, but it is completely relevant to the history because it's the main patriarchal site, main patriarchal eras and times where they dominated, and also where feminines dominated too. So I'll talk about divine masculine, divine feminine, so the masculine and feminine energies, and then the past lives and times. But also I just wanted to engage with you in this one little bit of where and why I kind of went into understanding this and how it affected me. So I had I'd just broken up with my ex. I think I was 19 or so. And I went and got a psychic reading, and she said that this guy was going to come. I won't tell you the psychic, that this guy was going to come and he was going to have this type of background. So he was going to be English. I won't tell you the guy's name either. He was going to be English. He was going to sweep me off my feet. He was going to meet me in a bar. He was going to, which is like a club in Melbourne. So, and he was suffering as well from being with other people and the sexual type of trauma and curse that was there. So I didn't understand that bit. I was kind of just like, yay, there's going to be a guy coming, yay. And I kind of put it in the back of my mind. And then I think it was literally like 3 months later, I was in this bar in this club with my friend and was all like, yeah, 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 yeah. And then, not like that, but like dancing, like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I guess it's beautiful, it's comical. I was with my friend and we saw these two guys and we were like, oh yeah, nice, like, and then we started talking to them, and then eventually it led on to, okay, I'm gonna initiate you coming home with me. And so we did that, and then I saw this guy for like a few more times, but every time it was kind of like he was interrupted and he was late all the time. He would tell me he was coming and then he wouldn't come. He would put expectations on me of looking nice and those types of things. He was just very, very lost. Like, we'd lie awake at night and talk about like children's names and things like that, and really beautiful, beautiful things. But he would literally tell me, he was like, I'm damaged. Like, I'm damaged. And I only understand like now that when people tell you that at the start, to probably believe them rather than putting beliefs on it and being like, oh, okay, no, they'll get better and that type of thing. It's like, if someone wants to heal themselves, then they will. If someone wants to take on that on board, then they will. But otherwise, they kind of are just, in the nicest way possible, they're playing the victim. Sorry to be blunt, but that's what they're doing. And I feel like it'll help some of you. So I kept on going back to this psychic and was like, I met this guy and he's beautiful, la 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 la. And then she was like, you gotta let him go. He's going to destroy you. And I was like, no. And so I went and saw this guy for like 2 years maybe, or a year. And it eventually got to the point where I was so emotionally drained. Like, I was going back to this healer and this psychic, and she was like, you're gonna have to let him go. And so I ended up, like, she gave me practices, and you can actually do this at home with people that you want to let go. So I wrote it down that I wanted to release a certain person, and then I pictured them in my meditation, and I would sit there and I'd imagine them in a hot air balloon going out of me with their attachment, cutting the cord, and then going all the way up and up and up in this hot air balloon until they're gone. So I did that, and every time that I did that, they kept on attaching back, and I would get a message straight away, or I would get a phone call straight away. And I was like, this is driving me nuts. Like, it was so beyond like anything that I thought at that time that would happen, that I was kind of just like, there's something to this guy. Like, there's something there. It's like, I just couldn't explain it, but I was like, there's no way that you could have told me all this, met this guy, then this happened. I was like, there's no way. So I kind of went back to her a few times, and she said, like, you're just going to have to let him go. She was tapping into his energy, being like, he's not ready, seeing all these girls. And then, yeah, he ended up seeing like all these people, and it was completely destroying for me. And we ended up kind of just cutting it off and being like, this isn't healthy, this isn't good. But he prompted me to go overseas and to go and travel and that type of thing. So I went back to her a few times, and then in my healings, I kept on going back to that same situation actually. And it's 2020 now, but even like 2019, I was going back to that same situation. And it was when I was like 19. So I don't even know what year that would have been, like 2014. I kept on going back to that same situation in my healing like practices, and I was like, what is going on here? And then I realized he was from Egypt, and I did not have a good life in Egypt. My mentor, one of them, says that Egypt was a make or break for my soul at that time. And so, and every time I would go back to Egypt, like I would try, and I have the modality now that I can like at the technique and certified in it, that I can now do it myself, because that's the mentor has taught me. So you can do it yourself. So I've been doing it myself, and then I kept on falling asleep at this one time, and I was like, I can't even remember what happened in Egypt. And then my mentor told me like, oh, okay, it was a make or break. Another mentor, a make or break for your soul. I was like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And so then this kind of discovery, and I remember sitting on my bed before my shaman course one time, and I had a whiteboard. I have a whiteboard there, so I'm just pointing to it. I had a whiteboard in front of me, and I remember just writing all this channeling. It was like la 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 of all this history that had happened. And I was like, oh, okay, it makes sense as to why I'm going back to all these past times, like Atlantis, Egypt, medieval times when I was a witch, Catholicism, World War I, World War II, when I was an alien as well, like extraterrestrial, why I was picking up aliens in my like alien energy and alien technology in my meditations. I was like, this all makes sense now. And so that kind of past lives and channeling all that and looking at it, I was like, oh my goodness. And there was one thing, like one specific event where I had met my twin flame, and they're like people around them, I won't say their names, but the people around them started triggering me. And I was like, how the hell, like, what is going on here? I just didn't understand it, didn't know what twin flame was, like didn't understand it at all. And only now can I put the dots together and be like, oh, that makes so much sense, duh. And so, yeah, there's so much to this. So, divine masculine and divine feminine. So, inside of all of us, internally, we have both the sun and the moon, which is divine masculine and divine feminine. So, divine masculine is the sun, divine feminine is the moon. So, we are made up of stardust, we're made up of the universe, we're made up of all the different atoms and molecules and chemicals going around, and that's why you have your endocrine system, and it's like beautiful. And so that's why all the planets can influence you, and the astrology can influence you, and numbers can influence you, because it's the universe talking to you, and numerology and healing techniques, so you can go into the universal principles and it can influence your body, and energy can influence you because you are energy. So water is energy essentially, and it flows with all the energy movements. So if you look at the world, I always look at the world. So I always sit there and look at the beach, and I'm like, oh, this makes so much sense now. Okay. So if you look at the earth, and you have country, and its wall, and then you have the moon over this side and the sun over this side. So you have the moon and the sun. Yeah, maybe I can use I can't really use any props for this. Okay, if you have the moon and the sun, like the earth, and we're moving around and around, right? So the moon and the sun, as it moves, the tides move, yeah, and the energy moves, and it brings in light and it brings in darkness, and it has this beautiful kind of flow that brings it all in together. And so this is literally like our world. This is our world outside of us, but also internally, because we have manifested in this life to be on this earth at this certain time in 2020, and it's 11/11 as I said that, sorry, 1/11 as I said that, but in 2020 to be on the earth at this exact same time. So it's amazing that you're on this coaching course. But you have the moon and the sun, and as you move around, the ocean and the tide moves with the moon, and this is the feminine energy, so it moves around and moves the ocean with it and moves the water. And you always see, like in really spiritual and beautiful communities, like people going out in the full moon and they're dancing and swaying, and the new moon, that is the beautiful like embodiment of that divine feminine energy, where she's encompassed both divine masculine and divine feminine inside of her. Yeah. And then you have the beautiful like divine masculine energy, which is the sun, and it radiates and it's present, and it goes and lights up the world for half of it. And then when it goes into the darkness, the energy in the divine feminine moves again, and it's this perfect harmony of divine feminine and divine masculine. So when you're divine feminine, because when you're energy and you go up, you're very androgynous when you go up in energy. So you're both divine masculine and divine feminine inside of you. And then divine, did I say divine masculine? And then the beautiful divine feminine, whichever way I did it, but the beautiful divine feminine has divine feminine and divine masculine inside of them. And they're both perfect alignment. So it's like when you go back into the universal principles, and it's the yin and yang that people see. So the yin and yang, it has the blackness and then the white, and then it's got the white and then the blackness inside, and it's beautiful, harmonious balance. And that's divine masculine, divine feminine. Why am I telling you about this right now, and how does it relate to history of slavery and past lives and times? Well, when I went back to the extraterrestrial times, and in the Syrian and Vegan, when I was reincarnated, it was like we were just energy bodies, like, and we didn't really have any form kind of thing. We didn't really have too much form, and it was more like they were like, I just remember me being an alien and people asking me about like, what should I do with, I think it was like this massive thing. It was like, I remember finding out in my shaman course, there was this massive like incubator thing, right? And they were putting like snakes into it, like literal snakes, and we were making like artificial snakes, and we were putting them into humans. So we were looking down on humans and kind of looking at them and seeing like how we could awaken them. And in our mindset as an alien, and going back into when I was extraterrestrial and that type of thing, I thought that it would help the kind of society and the universe, and people awaken. So I was directing these people to put them into different people, and it explains why I have scoliosis in this life. So I came to heal it all. And so that was when we kind of just, we were just energy. Like we were both masculine and feminine, like all together. Sorry, my nose is running. We were both like masculine and feminine, like all together. And then we went into Atlantis time. So when you're before Atlantis, when you can, like there were times before Atlantis, of course, and everyone is going to have different realities of what happened, because you only get certain parts of what you need at that time so that you can heal it. But once you kind of remember, you remember for however long you need. So you're going to remember it for, but if you go into a different past life, it's not the be all and end all what I'm telling you here. I'm just kind of awakening your consciousness so that you can understand it from your subconscious or even superconscious to your conscious. So you had like the I'm looking at the book actually right now. Okay, Edgar Cayce. Edgar Cayce was a very old psychic, and like historical psychic, sorry. And he went around and he has one specific book on Atlantis, and someone gave it to me as I was going through this Atlantis period. Because I had an entity that was trying to kill me from Atlantis. So they used to have like, it was women were in control in Atlantis, and it explains why in 2020, and I'm getting coughing as I say that, women especially are fearful of stepping out in their energy because they're scared of what happened back then. So back then I was a male and a female, so I had 2 incarnations that I know of right now in 2020 that I've remembered. I might remember more, who knows? You never know with these healing journeys. That I had. So I was masculine, and so as I was masculine and I saw everything, it was like there were different kind of women who ran and ruled Atlantis, and everyone else, especially men, were underground and were slaves. So I remember that, and we were in shackles and chains and things, and they pretty much, like, they did horrific things. They were so high-minded and so telepathic that they ended up putting crystals into men for sexual pleasure for them, but pretty much like sexually abusing these men by putting telepathic crystal implants into the men. So I had one of those implants that I need to remove. So that's why I'm telling you that. And then I reincarnated as a woman, and I remember seeing Atlantis, and I was this high priestess, and I was seeing them, and I had to help both like the males, and I didn't agree with what the women were doing, but that I was still in that kind of group with the women, and we're helping, we're trying to observe and help the men. So I was helping, like, I think it was the legal structure that they had there. I was like feeding the legal structure information, which explains right now why I'm doing the childhood stuff, but I was feeding the legal structure information so that I could help the men, and just relaying what the women had told me so that I could tell the legal structure so that they could stop it from happening to other men. And that was my other one. So in Atlantis, it was very like matriarchal. Like the women really ran everything there, and I feel like that is why they're so scared of their power now, and it's been going on for eons and eons and eons and eras, and they're so scared of their power now because of what happened in Atlantis. Egypt. Okay, so Egypt, again, I was a woman sex slave, so and that was horrific as well. So it was pretty much like Atlantis, but the opposite. So the men had dominating powers, and if you just look at it from an observatory, not, oh, okay, I was this and this, it's like observing what you would like, that energy was like in there. So observing the energy, I could look at the way in which from Atlantis, you can't tell you how many years back, but thousands or something years, that the way in which the matriarchal kind of society with divine feminines were, they abused their power, that now it was, okay, the extreme of that was the men are going to abuse their power on women now. So it was the exact same, but the opposite. So the men were abusing their power and their role in Egypt time, and there were pharaohs and things, and I remember not being mummified properly, and I remember being tortured, and bugs, like they put bugs in you and parasites. So I remember there was times, and Rachel's in this as well, but there were bugs underneath our skins and parasites that we started seeing. We thought we were going crazy, but you just have to like clear them out, and we'll give you tools in that if it kind of happens, because there's normally especially 2020 with everything going on in the government and the legal system that's going to come out, there are so many kind of energies that are still kind of reincarnating from Egypt. And that's where I remembered, oh, okay, I knew that partner from back when I was in Egypt. And they were kind of trying to teach me to heal Egypt, but also showing me what it was like for me in Egypt. So that's why that was playing out. That was very male-dominated Egypt. And then the medieval times, the witches, again, it was very male-dominated, and they were so scared of the women getting back in their power that they ended up trying to kidnap them, trying to, like, they did horrific things again, like same types, like all different types of emotional abuses, like just societal abuses, sexual abuses, physical abuses, completely not allowing the females to be in their power, because they were like, they didn't understand it consciously, but subconsciously they knew, oh, okay, well, if we let them in their power and their whole energy power, and females are very heightened then as well, again, they had all their intuition and everything that were brought about. If you let them in their power, oh my goodness, what's going to happen to the world? And so they would call them witches. They would burn them at the stake. They would hunt them down. They would do horrific rituals and things. It's just, yeah, there was like genital mutilations, like all different things. So you might remember some of these, or it might trigger some memories, and you could be like, wow, that might be me. But it could explain like why it's happening now. I'm laughing because I'm remembering this time when someone triggered me, and they said like, oh, like, here, you're so spiritual, like, here's your herbs, like, ooh, and we're like, ooh, crazy, like, type of thing. And I was just like so triggered, because I would literally, in the witch times, I had so many herbs in my house, and then all of a sudden I remember this, and I was having dreams about this, and I was so scared that people were going to come and kidnap me, because they were trying to kidnap me to get my herbs, because they knew I was so heightened awareness at that time. So some of this might happen to you as well. And normally it incarnates. So I remember having, that was a partner that I was with. Their family were triggering me. So third time lucky. It was triggering me. So it was kind of like that whole witch vibe, and I remembered who they were in that medieval time. I was like, this is really triggering me. So some of that might happen to you. So there are times like with astral the planets, and with the energy that comes in, that it's kind of like that trauma curse as well comes back in, and you do remember it. Like, you do, it'll just pop up at certain times, and there's certain times in the year when it pops up for us, and we'll always be on the phone to each other, and we'll be like, oh my gosh, it's happening again, like this timeline's happening again. Yeah, I saw this person who's related to when I was in that time, and it's like, oh my goodness, it's like a karmic kind of timeline that plays out in energy. And then, yeah, it was the Catholic Church that was, and you can see it coming out now in 2020 and even 2019, but it was very, very patriarchal again, and the men dominated, and the men abused their power again. And then it was World War I and World War II, and this is kind of where the men start to awaken, because they're told a lie. So they're told a lie that if they go to war and things, that they're going to go to war and they're going to be proud of themselves, and they're going to be happy for themselves, and that they've done it for their family, and that they've done it for everything. And then they come back from war, and I remember being a nurse in World War I and working through some of the trauma cycles that they'd had, and they genuinely like had PTSD, had depression, had different things. And back then, when it was those war days, the early 1900s, people didn't recognize this as those types of things at all, or give recognition to it, because it was like, well, you went to war, you went and fought with your country, like, you came back, and you should be happy about that. Like, that's what they expected in society. And it was like, no, these men got lied to, and they thought that they were going and helping their country and things, but they completely just came back destroyed. Like, and so this is where my timeline almost stops and comes into this one. So World War II happened, and World War II was the exact same as World War I. So everyone thought, oh my goodness, war, like, as bad as it was, they thought that they were fighting for their country. They were lied to. They were suppressed for information. They honestly thought, like, if I go to war, I'm a war hero. That's what they thought. That was the propaganda going out then. So they believed this kind of narrative and lie. And this is where it leads me into this. So World War II, I lost my husband then. And I remember it being really traumatizing. And it literally, like, this life, it has played out in all my relationships, I could say, literally all of them. Even my childhood trauma. So when I would be abandoned in things, I had no idea at that time. I was just like, you're leaving a child. This is the worst. Like, I didn't know when they were coming back. I thought it was terrible. But now that I look back on it and I realized, like, oh, I signed up for that so that I could heal World War II, I was like, oh, okay, because World War II, to be really explicit with you, but I ended up, I didn't want to be there. And I pretty much just left the earth because my husband wasn't coming home and he died, and my intuition kicked in, and I thought, like, oh, okay, I could have saved him, and all of these things. So that was World War II. So, and that is kind of the history of the different slaveries. So right now in 2020, and if you're on this and you're a female especially, but even a masculine, you have such an important role here, because it's the rise again of the feminine energy. And it's kind of breaking all those trauma cycles and those curses. And it's a really influential time where it can go one or two ways. So you can step into your power and you can be really dominating, or you can step into your power, but step into your divine masculine and divine feminine power inside of you and kind of balance them out inside of you. And really, 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 this is a time where we need to balance it out for ourselves, because we can't be just one kind of masculine or one feminine and go against each other. And then there's a whole feminist movement. The feminist movement was a stepping stone for this. And if we take it too far and kind of perpetrate and persecute the masculines again and make it a matriarchal kind of society, it's not going to work. It's just not. It's you need to start embodying the masculine and feminine aspects of yourself. And this is where it's beautiful on this coaching course, because you can intertwine and understand and really resonate with some of the things that I said about, like, extraterrestrials, kind of what star system you might be from. So there's all different star systems. And even looking up the stars, like, I remember there was one star that always stood out, and I was like, oh, okay, that might be my home star. Like, that's probably a reason why I'm staring at it. Or the beach. I always love the beach. And then I was like, there's probably a reason why I love the beach. And then I went back to Atlantis time. So I was like, oh, that makes sense. And then I loved waterfalls, and I loved being out in the forest for a little bit. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, it makes sense, because now I understand my medieval times. And why I was born in the Catholic Church and why I was raised in the Catholic Church. So some of these you could be resonating with and be consciously like, oh yeah, that resonates with me. So aliens and extraterrestrials, and Atlantis and Lemuria as well. I don't exactly remember Lemuria, but I know that it did happen, and that it was kind of another society, but I think I was more in Atlantis. So aliens, extraterrestrials, Atlantis, Egypt, medieval Catholicism is part of that medieval time, and World War I and World War II. So there's a lot happening there, and which brings us into 2020, kind of jumping back into the present moment. There's a lot of past happening there, and it's important to understand the past and not to get stuck in it or be emotionally attached to it. There's a lot of fear here. I understand some of you that might trigger you, but it's more looking at the observatory kind of perspective of it and being like, oh, okay, well, this happened. I've seen this. how can I bring that into my present moment and be logical and kind of look at it and go, oh, okay, well, I can see how this is playing out here. This is playing out here. This triggers me here because of this. And then looking at the different tools and techniques in this coaching course that will kind of develop you even more as a soul and make you more, bring that soul more back into you and more into full expression because of the way in which you've seen that past life and that you don't want to manifest that in the future anymore. So this is why it was so important for me to talk about the divine masculine, divine feminine energies, Shakti, Shiva, the yin, the yang, whichever you resonate with, because it's all about right now in 2020 embodying the masculine and feminine inside of us first, so then we can create that harmonious balance outside of us in the world. So it's not about like persecuting, oh my goodness, you did this in Egypt, so you're going to do it now. It's more about understanding it and understanding, oh, okay, well, how can I fix and not fix, understand the emotional connection and energetic connection between each of these parties, and then bring it into my present life so that I can heal it and bring more of my soul back into its full expression. I hope that helped you. That was a lot. And I'll go more into how we can do that further on in the course. So I hope that you've enjoyed this far. Congratulations for getting this far, and I hope that you can keep it up.